Let's see, Sally's excuse today, Max, Elliot, Crampton, Jaylian, Nico, here, Val's here, Andrew, Tom here, Olivia here. Laurel here, Moberly here, Rosie excuse, Django here, and Dallas here. All right. I have some Indian spices in my car. They're still making me sneeze. For the first time in my life, I cooked some Indian dishes this weekend. I was at my girlfriend's house and I came home last night and I petted my cat. Cat started to sneeze from the residual spices on me. It was good stuff. Hot like nobody's business. You guys probably wouldn't be able to handle it. When you go to an Indian restaurant in England and you order a dish, they ask you 3 questions. How hot do you want? One is called British hot. That's effectively means sweet. The other called American hot. It's like buffalo sauce. And the next is Indian hot. Think of like that manga habanero sauce. All right. Let's start talking about economic exposure. Today we will mainly talk about where does it come from, and different kind of things that would create economic exposure. And on Wednesday we will talk about kind of A, how to measure it, and B, what to do about it. So where do you think economic exposure comes from? Think of economic exposure, the exposure that you get the exchange rates even if you have no foreign currency transactions. You don't borrow, you don't lend, you don't buy or you don't sell in foreign currencies. So any exposure you have outside of those is called economic exposure. Remember, exposure means openness to risk, to foreign exchange rates, that are caused by factors other than exposure. I should call it direct exposure. That is due to transactions and assets or liabilities in foreign currencies. If you're holding shares of Honda Motor Company, if Japanese yen strengthens, that's going to be worth a lot more compared to otherwise. Sometimes it's kind of hidden. You can buy shares of Honda Motor Company either in Japan or you can buy what we call an ADR. Do you guys know what an ADR is? Even if you hold assets denominated at least ostensibly in US dollar, you may have transaction exposure. For example, if you hold shares of, let's call it BNTX, which is BioNTech ADR shares traded on New York Stock Exchange, you still have transaction exposure. Because shares traded in New York Stock Exchange and Frankfurt are related to each other. The way these works, do you guys know what an ADR is? Have you heard them before? It's kind of an easy way for Americans to invest into foreign stocks. They're short for American Depository Receipts. Let's say I'm BioNTech. I want to have my shares traded in New York in dollar terms. That would obviously increase my investors' access and would be a good thing for the company. And I would also be subject to American accounting standards. Americans actually pay a premium on companies that trade as ADR, foreign companies that trade as ADR versus that do not. Effectively, what you do, you establish a shell company and you deposit a certain number of shares of the parent company into the shell company, and you list the depository receipts as shares. You know, there's a conversion ratio, for example. Let's look at BNTX. It's trading at 111.46. Let's look at the BioNTech Frankfurt stock. Not Frankfurt with an O. It's trading at 106.25 euros. Since it's in Frankfurt, it's trading in euros. If we actually adjust it for exchange rate, €1 is 105.02. Trades that euro 106.25. Current hence implied price for the ADR equals 106.25 times 105.02. So 111.58. current BNTX, which is ADR for BioNTech. Is, let me see, 111.46. A, they're not going to be exactly the same. And B, I think right now the Frankfurt market is actually closed. So there is actually no transactions going on because there is 6 hour difference between Frankfurt and here. So it's 7:38 p.m. In Frankfurt. If you don't know what time it is, you can always say, what time is it in Frankfurt, Germany? Because sometimes they change the what you want to call